welcome back to FeedbackLoop. I'm Joey.
I'm Jeremy.
And we were talking about some music this week.
Were we?
Yeah. I mean, we aren't yet, I guess, but we will be.
We have talked about music in the past week, I'm sure.
You know, that's true. I think we probably did earlier. But the specific music that we're talking about this week on our show is an album by Frog called Whatever. We Probably Already Had It.
Which is, it's an interesting title. I mean, obviously, this album came out in 2018.
Yeah.
But, so obviously it wasn't written in the times of COVID. But when I hear the title, Whatever, We Probably Already Had It, I very much get that, like, arrogant person saying that, like, about COVID.
Yeah.
When they're like, whatever, we all probably already had it. Like, it's whatever. Like, I didn't die. I'm still here. It doesn't. It's a hoax.
Oh God!
Maybe it's just a sign of where I live. But like, I don't know. That's what I think of. That's where my mind goes whenever I read the album title.
I think of like an arrogant frat boy who's like, I don't know. Somebody's like, "Oh, dude, I heard about this new crazy drug," and the guy's just like,
yeah,
whatever, I've already had it. It's not going to be anything to me.
It's probably more apt to what the album is than COVID, because COVID was not a thing.
It didn't exist yet.
It didn't exist yet.
Unless we're talking about the Chinese lab where it was already. Can I say that?
I mean,
it's not true. It's okay.
We're being funny.
I'm being facetious there.
I think people understand that.
Okay.
The album art of the album, it's just a photo, I guess, of them.
Yeah, I think it's
a Frog.
Yeah, Dan Bateman, who is the singer guitar player, and Tom White, who is the drummer and backup singer. So,
who is their bassist?
Exactly. It's Dan Bateman on the album, and when they're live, it's nobody.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the singer plays the bass in the studio, and then just goes on.
Yeah, and the drummer also plays like keyboard stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I see. You can see it in the picture. It looks like he has a little keyboard synthesizer or something set up behind it, and then it's just very clean font. It says Frog, and then the album title on like a blue. Simple. It's very simple.
Yeah,
and it's kind of nostalgic, I suppose, because this album came out in 2018, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like an album cover from the 60s or something.
Yeah, it's
pretty
kind of
cool. Clean, elegant, chill.
I'm guessing that's what they're going for. If not, they stumbled upon it, and that's what it looks like anyways, so who cares if they're going for it? That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, and because of their aesthetic, we all know that the Frog lives. Frog is alive and well.
Yeah, currently. And also, they made a...
2018, I don't know if they still are. I didn't do any research.
They still are, unless, I mean, as of like yesterday, they still are. I guess I can't
publicly. I mean, maybe they broke up in private and they just haven't announced it yet.
Yeah.
As of our knowledge, they're still alive.
And as of our knowledge, track number 1 on this album is called Frog Lives.
Holy shit!
And this
I feel rusty. I just want to call this out. I feel like because last week we didn't do an album. Now that I feel like I'm slipping back into something that I haven't done in a while, even though it's only been 2 weeks. And I just feel like I'm flustered and like all over the place.
I feel that way too, but also maybe we're just like thinking about it and more than usual, and we're just always this way.
So. Maybe it's true. Maybe we're just more aware this week. But Frog Lives. It's a track. I don't know if I would call it a song. It's like 17 seconds long.
And it's just them going, frog, 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 frog. And I mean, it's just like, I guess, an intro to kind of get back into it. I think there was a 3-year gap between their last album, which was kind of blah. I think it came out in 2015.
To clarify, is that the name of the album?
Yes. Okay.
It's you weren't insulting the album.
No, it's kind of
blah.
I actually put that album as my top album of stuff that I listened to in 2020. Yeah. So
I totally listened to what you're saying when you were saying things on this podcast. I respect you as a person. But yeah.
God damn it.
What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to make fun of you because you don't listen to the podcast that we do.
Well, I mean, it's fine.
I do, but
I don't. I mean, I edit it, but I don't actually listen to it most of the time. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so they're just chanting Frog over and over again, and then it goes right into American,
track
which
number
is track number 2. Didn't segue.
No segue.
We weren't having a good enough discussion to segue.
Yeah.
as if we ever have good segues anyway.
So I didn't ask it on the first track because it wasn't really a song. But initial thoughts.
So it starts off right. It's got some like kind of country bluesy guitars doing something that I'm not super into.
Oh.
And the vocals come. I mean, I am, but like I don't know. It's more country. The aesthetic of it, and I think what really puts it apart for me is the vocals. I feel like you should have seen this coming. If you didn't, then you're a fool. But the vocals come in, and it's so off-putting to me.
God damn it!
So off-putting to me. It's he has this very kind of redneck-ish like accent, especially in the first part of the song.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's playing it up to sell the lyrics better, or if that's just how he sounds, because a lot of the songs he doesn't actually sound like this, so I'm assuming it's the former. But it's just, I don't know, it's so obnoxious to me the way he sings in this track, and it's I don't like it. And he starts off by singing. I'm going to go ahead and skip lyrics because I'm talking about vocals. We can come back to the music here in a second. But he starts off by saying, "Yes, by God, I'm American. God is great. He's hilarious. What the fuck y'all staring at? Tall, dark, bald, and arrogant." Like, I don't. It's just like it immediately is just put me in a bad mood. I don't know about bad mood, but it's just like, man, I fucking hate this. Just immediately, just like the worst thing with just some like redneck guy screaming about being American and God being great and stuff like that. Because I get enough of that in real life.
Yeah, that is a thing that happens where we live.
I don't need that. So I was immediately kind of put off by it. But then the chorus comes in, and then the music has kind of a different vibe to it. And over the course of the past week, I've kind of grown fond of that sound of their album, their music, or whatever. And then by the time I get through the album, and then the next time I start up the album, I'm just immediately off-put again. Every time I listen to this album, it starts off that way, and it's kind of this negative feel about his voice that I hate it. I can't stand it, kind of a thing. And then it kind of eases me back in. It never really loses its twang or the kind of country bluesy feeling of the music. But in this track, it kind of ends up building this pretty thick wall of sound that hits a vibe similar to what I described last week with the Deaf Heaven album, I think, where it's just like, it just zones me out a bit because there's so much noise and it's not a bad thing, but it just like, I don't know, it kind of hits me. So I think this track gets a pass. Every time I hear it, I immediately hate it, and then I'm like, okay, it's not that bad every time. And I don't know how to get over that. But
yeah,
I don't like it.
So I don't want to say I saw it coming, but I knew this was a possibility. I had accounted for this in my calculations of how I thought this was going to go. But so he is playing up his like southern accent, which I don't know how he has such a like twang in his voice.
Because they're from Milwaukee, right?
They're from New York.
What?
Yeah.
What? Why did I think they were from? I'm Googling this while you're explaining your shit.
They're very much like, I mean, maybe like originally, but like they are like.
Oh, I figured out what the issue is. I'm incredibly impatient, and when I search Frog Band, the top result is the Wikipedia page for the band called The Frogs. And they were an American rock music band founded in 1980 in Milwaukee. So,
well, there you go.
But yeah, if they're from New York, what the fuck?
Yep. I don't understand how his voice sounds like that, but it does.
That's fascinating to me.
And so yeah, he's playing it up because I mean the song's called American. Like
yeah,
it's obviously like he's playing up the American stereotype of like just like taking a dig at an American, but I think he's doing it to like put out this play of a lot of his other songs are very like kind of personal and emotional and introspective, and I think being from New York, I always took it as like he's building up this like how people tend to see like American people, I guess, like
Sure.
as the arrogant and like egotistical, which I mean, yeah, like it gets that is definitely a look that a lot of people have. But then like he also portrays like I don't know, in the second kind of verse area where he's talking about like supermarkets, lonely Clorox aisles, counter girl on the phone, she never smiles. The fridge is buzzing like a child. The way he's singing that, like, kind of gives me this like background behind the scenes view of like, okay, you're putting on this face, but like in the back, you're like lonely and empty and kind of just like walking around by yourself in a supermarket late at night, or it's not. It shows that like the big front is exactly that. It's a big front, and behind it is like there's not really too much back there, I guess.
Interesting. So that's your lyrical interpretation of the song, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of don't know if I wanna give away the conclusion that I have come to about this album.
Do it.
I guess we'll just take it song by song as we always do. But just know that what I say, I don't know. I'm gonna wing it. We're just gonna go through this little thing. But so I also picked up that it was kind of, he wasn't singing from his perspective, is what I got. He was kind of like, because I assumed it was kind of satirical, and that he was playing up his voice or whatever. So I was like, okay, he's writing from the perspective of a stereotypical Southern redneck kind of guy going about his day, that kind of, patriotic American thing. But he mentions that he gets stares at from the public. He says, "What the fuck y'all staring at?" And it's not really clear why people are staring at him. And maybe I read too far into that and some other lyrics in this, but he goes into the supermarket, everything seems normal. So like after saying, okay, everyone's looking at me, he's just continuing about his day as if nothing's weird, nothing's out of place. But the last lyrics, the last two lines of the song say, "Cluck cluck, pat yourself on the butt, young man. I'm the king of smut, young man. Come give me a cut, young man. Shh." And maybe I read too far into this, but I feel like he's a closeted gay redneck. And maybe this was me going out on a limb for sure. Maybe he has like a gimp in his cellar or something, because he mentions the Clorox aisle, so he's kind of a bit of a clean freak. Maybe to subconsciously disguise his like dirty secret that he's having sex with other guys or whatever. But everyone in the town can tell that something's not right, which is why they're kind of looking at him in a weird way. And I'm probably reading too far into that. But the rest of this album, I think, doesn't make me too far off. I do change some bits of that throughout my notes, but I think there's this perception that he's hiding a dirty little secret, kind of a thing.
I like where your head's at, man. I didn't pick up on all of that, and I mean that blew my fucking mind. Whether it's like right or not, I can definitely see it now that you've said it. It's clear as day.
Sure, when someone explains it to you.
But
it all makes sense, even if you wouldn't have come to that conclusion.
But man, I don't know.
That's just the introduction to this album that I got. And actually, I that's not fair, because like the way I do my notes, kind of behind the scenes peek, I guess. Usually, like I listen to the album throughout the week, and then I don't look up the lyrics until I get my notes together, which is usually the day of or the day before recording the podcast. So most of the time when I'm listening to the album, I'll listen to it a few times before even looking at the lyrics, because that's just how I listen to music. So I didn't have the story of this album put together until today. And I don't know if there is a story of the album, but there are some through lines, I think, that continue throughout the album. It just feels like he has something to hide.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. And I mean, we'll see if that's true in track number 3, Something to Hide.
Indeed.
Boom. Bam, boom, boom, bam.
This one, he immediately sounds less rednecky.
Yeah.
Right? So put me in a better mood. It kind of relaxed me. It's like, okay, it was an act. He's not actually like, it was clearly like a joke. And this track is more in line with, like, at least lyrically, he sounded a lot closer to the presidents of the United States of America, which we did 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I can get why Joey recommended this album to me. it's not as like energetic as the President's album,
Yeah.
and it's a bit more like shoegazy, especially in this track. It's kind of chill. I don't dislike it, but I also don't like really love it. At least not at this point. It's a decent sound, and I don't want to say I like it. Well, I guess I will say that I do like it. But it's not something that I love, and that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the album in general. But this one much better than American, in my opinion.
I like this song. I don't know if I like American more. I like singing American more.
Sure, because you're big, tall, dark, and bald and arrogant, or whatever.
Damn straight.
That definitely seems like something that I could see you singing back at like the pizza place or something.
Yeah,
just while you're like mopping.
Hell yeah, dude! Just mopping all day, man. Living the American dream. Fucking get paid minimum wage, just slop up shit.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, it's I do like the song though. Like I really like the sound. I feel like with this guitar, which I like the guitar a lot. Like I mean, I like his voice. I like everything about it. Obviously, I fucking love this band. But I really like the guitar. I like how he uses a lot of like chords to make it really like bright, and like you said, it fills up a lot of space.
Yeah.
They do have bass on the album, but even when you listen to them live, it still feels like there's a lot going on, even with just a guitar player and a drummer.
Right.
I just like that version of their sound, I guess, or that aspect of their sound. But yeah, it's definitely slower. It's not as in your face, and there's even one part in the middle where it kind of like backs out, and it's just kind of him playing a little like bass or guitar, and he's pretty much just talking to somebody, and he's kind of singing in like a lower key, but it's really just talking to somebody at that point, and then it comes back. But
yeah, that's an aesthetic that I think they use a couple times throughout this album, where and I like it. Like it gives a nice progression to the song, I guess, where it like establishes, I guess, the sound of the song, and then it'll have like a midsection where it kind of breaks that down and takes a step back and kind of like lets it all like reflect and sink in and marinate a bit, and then it'll go back to it. It's something I picked up on a few of the songs. Lyrically, this one I didn't immediately have a through line to the album. So this one initially, it seemed like it was about a girl breaking up with her boyfriend or fiance, potentially like about to get married, like at the altar kind of a deal.
Yeah,
she breaks up with a guy, finds some random stranger that gives her a ride on the way back, hooks up with that guy in like a motel or something. And then after that's over, she's like, what am I doing? Like she texts her ex and she's going back to meet him wherever she left him. Is the initial vibe that I got. Yeah,
that's pretty much what I got. Just like, I mean, it just kind of walks through a scene of like, yeah, she's walking home from somewhere where like it starts off, card was declined. She walked home crying. Do you need a ride? His car was dry. Like, so it just paints the scene of just her having, I guess, a terrible night. I don't know if it's because she was fighting with whoever she was with, like her boyfriend or fiance, whoever, or if it's just like her card was declined, so she couldn't get a taxi or something. So that's just upsetting in general. But like she just gets in and then ends up with this dude, like having an affair, and then just takes a shower and bolts it to get home, and talking about the guy like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's supposed to be talking about the guy, like her fiance or boyfriend or whoever, and like he figures it out or something. Because I mean, it's talking, but I also feel like it's from the perspective of the guy who picks her up, and he's like, hey, like, but me though, like we had a cool time. Why are you just going home or whatever? Like they're both the other guy, and they both, it could be seen as like, there's something to hide with that guy over there, like the other guy. And I don't know. I don't know which. I feel like it's probably more towards the guy that picked her up, but there's also a part of me that's like thinking it's the dude finds out or something.
Yeah. I don't know. That because I initially also was thinking that it was from the perspective of the guy that picks her up, but I think he might be onto something with it being the other guy finding out about it, and I think that'll maybe tie in better to what I have later.
Yeah.
But we will get to that. And I have no way to segue.
I was waiting. I should have done something, but I was just waiting for you to crash and burn because I thought it
Well,
would
here it is, Joey. I hope you're proud. God Once Loved a Woman.
Track 4.
This track number 4.
Boom. So this song is like, I don't know, if you talked about like country kind of twang, this doesn't really necessarily have the country twang, but he gets like some cool little finger style guitar playing going on in there that's really like, I mean, it's called God Once Loved a Woman, and it kind of sounds very like, not heavenly, I guess, but it's very like, very bright and airy and whatever with like there's a lot in this song that makes you feel like you're floating whenever it's going on.
And he has very, very like a tender voice in this track. He's kind of singing kind of softly, and the music itself is soft, and it almost has this somber sound to it. Yeah. And then the middle section of this one kind of starts to build a little bit with some kind of weird vocals, followed by like the drums come in and the bass comes in. And then I don't know, just analyzing the music, it felt like at that point the story started taking a turn in the music, and it got a little bit more dark, and then it kind of pauses for a minute to describe the scene, to just kind of like let it all sink in or whatever. And then for the end of the song, it kind of felt a bit pained, like if like heartbreak had happened or whatever. That's what I was picking up just from the music, and I think that kind of goes along with the lyrics as well.
I agree. Like, it's like the music's telling a story that's like hope, or just, I guess, wanting or something. Like the guy, God, is following this woman, and it's like this hopeful kind of bright, airy, floaty sound kind of going along, and then it's like they meet, and the scene is just like it goes along with the lyrics where it's just like twisting and getting darker, and it's like not at all what was expected, and it's just like it melts a little bit, which, I mean, all these words I'm using to describe are lyrics, like words that are in it, but it's just like, it just feels really, really weird. Like, I get this very vivid image of like he's meeting her, and then like she's just like super confused and kind of like scared or something, and that makes him feel like, oh shit, what's happening? Like what's going on? Like, this isn't at all what I expected, and kind of just everything separates.
Interesting. Do you want to hear my crazy off the wall take of the lyrics of the song?
Dude, of fucking course I do.
So it initially, like, it gave me kind of a creepy vibe, because he starts off with saying God once loved a woman, her features soft in German, and one day after sermon, God followed her home across the George Washington. Right, so he's following her home from church, and it took me a minute to get there, but initially I was like, okay, the song seems to be about a holy man stalking, raping, and killing a beautiful young woman.
Yeah.
Because like the first bit, like I just read, sets up the stalking, right? He's following her home. Then it mentions that she saw her son running past a window, reaching through thin smoke and touching the glass through the cold burning past, is what he says. And I was wondering if that was either part of her, or if that was part of her like having a memory of her deceased son, like if her son had died. Because she sees him run past the window, and then he reaches out through like this thin wispy smoke and touches the glass, but she can't like get it, and with the burning past, it kind of made me feel like she had lost her son already, and she was trying to like reconnect with him. And that's maybe why she was going to church to begin with, is to kind of mourn and to ease the grief of her loss by like seeking out some belief in the afterlife or whatever. And then she gets followed home by the holy man, the priest that is being called God in the song. They mention God. They don't say he's a priest, but yeah. I took that to mean that he's a holy man. And then there's like some weird imagery. Like it says he felt her in him growing, him being God in this case. He wanted her to know him. So when it started snowing, meaning climaxing, like a dude just came, is what it got to me, because he was growing. She was feeling him grow in her, kind of thing, which it gave me kind of a rapey vibe, because he was already following her home. So the dude rapes her, right? And then like God spoke to her from the path train platform. The ground it shook Rats ran in swarms and scratched and clawed through the fog. There arose form. And it just like that the whole like summoning of rats, like he got pissed off and he's just murdering her now.
Yeah.
And he says like, as he's killing her, he says, "You are the most beautiful thing that I made." And he watches as her face twists and melts towards the shade. Now all the boneyards tremble with her name. So it implies that she's dead. And I feel like there's just that kind of weird like creep to it that makes it more of like a rape and murder kind of a thing. And it goes on to say like, something's there, you don't care, it's unfair. It's a drain still clogged up with her hair. So either this is like wherever she died, I guess, still kind of has that memory of her because she was killed in such a brutal fashion in that house, whether it's been sold to someone else, and you can still like feel her presence there. And it says, "Don't you get the concept? You ain't slept." It's a dorm where her things were once kept. So like, it's like someone else has moved into the house and is hearing the story of what had happened to this woman in this house, which doesn't seem like it's connected, but I'll get there in due time.
See, I think you could be right based on another song that comes later. And I think there could be at least a general theme that shares it. I always got the idea that it was like her son is gone, has died. Mm-hmm. And whenever she got to the platform, it was like, I thought of it as like a literal God.
Right.
And she sees him, but it's like a bittersweet kind of, because it's like, you took my son from me, because she just came from church. So I'm assuming she subscribes to that faith that it's like, you're all powerful and you took my son from me, as she's trying to like throw herself in front of a train. Like,
interesting.
But I mean,
God, that would explain the ground shaking.
Right? Yeah. And God is like being like, no, don't, like, you're the most beautiful thing that I made. Not necessarily talking about her in specific, but like as a person, like
right.
saying that people are the most beautiful thing. It's like, you are a person, and her face is twisting and melting towards the shade as like she's dying, and she's just like not believing him, and it's like, I can't believe you would come to me at this moment and try to stop me from trying to end this pain or something.
Yeah, no. So now I'm thinking that I'm wrong. I'm right on. Well, I'm not right. I'm not gonna say I'm absolutely right on these things. But to fit in what you're saying, instead of him like murdering her, maybe it was that like he did rape her, and that was that. And then she, from the trauma of that, wanted to kill herself. Because I mean, the whole throwing herself in front of a train seems so obvious to me now. That like they were on the train platform. I think he was following her, and he's like, "No, don't do it. Like, I love you. You're the most beautiful person in the world. I don't want you to do it." And then she like turns around all dramatically and then falls in and then gets splattered by the train. And that's why he sees like her face is being twisted and melted and whatever. But then I don't really know how to justify the drain being clogged up with her hair and sleeping in a dorm where her things were once kept. Doesn't really make sense to me. But I think you were more correct with the whole train platform thing. I just don't know how to finish that resolution with what I had.
It could just be because, I mean, it starts with something's there, you don't care, it's unfair. Like, it could be talking about just the general feeling that, like, I don't know, somebody used to live here. Somebody with a whole life used to live here, and now you don't even care. Because it's unfair that this person is just gone from most memory. And it's like there's still her hair in the drain. There's physical pieces of her there, but no emotional or memory of her there, I guess.
So instead of the new homeowner like being weirded out by the potential haunting because someone was murdered in the house, it's just like, oh, that's sad, but whatever.
Yeah,
I have a house now. I don't care who owned it.
Yeah, or like they're just like, whatever. Like, it's my house now. I'll just unclog this drain and get all this,
throw the hair away.
Get all this person's hair out of here.
Interesting. I'm not even trying to segue. I'm so out of the segue because this is like the most interesting story that I've come up with for an album. I just want to talk about it. So track number 5 is "Give Me Your Number."
Yeah, and there's no whistling. There's only whistling. There's no words.
No whistling. It's strange in a world of music where the song specifically has no whistling because there are just so many songs that are all whistling.
But yeah,
the opposite of that is what
it's the literal opposite. It's just like there's kind of a bass line thing going. Like it's just him playing like a very slow like doom 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 type bass line, or it's just slow throughout the song. I can't believe you just set that can down.
Sorry, I didn't. I bumped it as I was
okay.
putting it down.
But yeah, so it's like just got this little slow moving bass line. It's about 1 minute and 45 seconds long, and partway through, kind of like a synthy keyboard type thing just kind of drones on for it, and it's just him whistling a melody over that for the entirety of the song. So
yeah, pretty short and simple. It's kind of like an interlude kind of track, getting you from walking you down a bit from the energy of the last song and kind of preparing you for the next leg of your journey to the restroom, perhaps.
Yeah. Oh my god, I didn't even realize you did that. Track 6. Track 6, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen?
Whoa, Joey, don't be talking about people's genitals.
Gentlemen.
Gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen. Track number 6 is Journey to the Restroom, and boy, does that awful voice return.
What? You don't like his voice in this song?
I really don't. And it's weird because like tracks 3 through 5, the last 3 tracks that we talked about, I kind of forget that American has such like an off-putting vocals, and it comes right back in after that interlude with this, and so it's kind of a bit jarring to me. That being said, I do like this track better than American. There's some like interesting like rhythmic elements to this one, and there's some like really clean guitar tones and interesting section changes and stuff like that. His voice just doesn't do it for me though.
I could see that. This song, like, I feel like he is drunk when singing this song. Like, there's a lot of kind of like slurring going on, and not mumbling, but almost there.
He's like stumbling through his words.
Yeah, very much. And I like it. I like the vibe of the song. And, but it comes back in with like a higher energy where it's got like, I don't know, it's just faster than like God Once Loved a Woman. It's faster than Something to Hide. It's almost on the same pace as like American, but not quite as twangy in the music.
Yeah, it's pretty rocky.
Yeah. And I like the guitar parts in like the chorus where it's kind of got like a cool melody going on. It's like got shifts in the melody in the chorus, and that's just, I like it. But I agree.
I think the music covers up a whole lot of the pain of his voice. Pain, my pain, not his pain. He doesn't sound like he's in. I mean, I guess kind of he's wasted and talking about shit, but I think the music helps me personally enjoy it better, just because his voice is so like not great.
Well, speaking of a not great voice, what he's saying in the song is about I don't know. Like for me, it always just gets like a dude is just like in a drunk night on the town, just like having a bad time just because he's like too far gone. Like, I don't know, just the way that it starts off is like him stumbling through the words of fuck man, was thinking of going to sleep or maybe getting something to eat. 3 a.m. vomit and cones on the street, drip dry and repeat. She died in a restroom in Midtown. And it's like, shit, dude, this guy's just like, I don't know, it just paints a picture of somebody just like stumbling through like the streets of New York City, and there's like just, they stumble upon a dead person in a restroom like out in the middle of the city, and they're just like, oh fuck, like what's happening? But also it like looking at it deeper, it kind of seems like she's not dead in the moment that he's drunk. It's just like, it seems like almost like a separate thing, which makes me wonder if he's connected. Like this is where kind of the story of like what you were talking about originally on God Once Loved a Woman, where it's like the dude was like a rapist and a murderer. Like, it makes me think that this is tied in some way, but I don't entirely know how.
Well, let me enlighten you.
Do it.
This is the track that made it all kind of come together. But now that I'm like looking at the lyrics, I'm not so sure, because now I'm thinking that he's drunk because he's mourning the girl, and she knew him, and he found out that she died in a restroom somewhere, and like they don't really know what's going on. But I think that the last lyrics kind of tie it back to what I was saying, so I'm just gonna go with what I wrote down. So initially I was like, I have no fucking clue what's going on in here. There's clearly the drunken mess of the protagonist and a dead chick. That much is clear.
Yeah.
I was thinking in similar tone to the girl hooking up with a stranger in track 3, which is Something to Hide. And then the murder rape in track 4 with God Once Loved a Woman. Perhaps they're all loosely connected, and it's all revolving around the same guy, and he's just some fucking psychopath. He gets drunk, he picks up chicks, he fucks them, and then he murders them, kind of a thing. The girl in track 3 got off easy because he just wasn't feeling it that day when he gave her a ride. He was thinking about it, they had a quickie, they fucked, and then she got away because whatever reason, he didn't feel like murdering her or something. But it's not clear in this track if the girl killed herself, but I kind of get the vibe that he killed her and then left her there.
Yeah.
And because he seems to act like he doesn't know what happened, saying like, I heard they had to break down the door to the room or whatever. And like, I don't know. So I'm thinking that it's just like one guy who's like a serial killer, rapist kind of guy who's just like loves getting off on shit like that. And he's just trying a bunch of different things. Maybe that's where it started, was in track 3, Something to Hide. Like track 2, American, where he was kind of, I implied that he was maybe experimenting with other men kind of thing. And he's trying to like shelter or closet himself and like pretend like it's all normal or whatever, but it really has these weird abnormal sexual fantasies or whatever, which it's not, if you like dudes, that's not abnormal. I'm not trying to say that, but things that people in the town would kind of like not agree with.
Yeah.
Especially when he's singing in such like a southern rednecky kind of thing that would not go over well. But so that was kind of him dipping his toes into something that he would see as like a deviance in sexual norms or whatever. And then Something to Hide, he picks up some random chick on the side, fucks her, and then goes about it. He's like, maybe I'm going to take this a step farther. And then track 4, he follows someone home, rapes them against their will, and then she kills herself. Track number 5 is the whistling track, so maybe he's just trying to like get over it himself or act like everything's normal and just like, man, this was kind of fun. All of the feelings. And then track 6, I don't know how necessarily if it's related in the way that I already expressed, but it seems like he's like a drunken mess because maybe it's all starting to come back to him or whatever. But the last line in the song says, you lead, you don't follow, you come, you don't swallow, you bleed in this hovel, you call me tomorrow. So I was feeling like maybe he raped this chick, or maybe it was consensual or whatever, and he took it too far and ended up killing her, but thinking that she was okay, or he didn't know that he killed her at the time, where he was just being like super rough and like she was bleeding all over the place or bleeding a little bit, and then left her kind of in a panic, said, yeah, you'll call me tomorrow, and then she bled out and died or whatever, wherever she was, and then someone found her later. But because they had to break the door down, like I'm not sure if she killed herself, because that would kind of imply that it was locked from the inside.
Yeah.
And that he couldn't have gotten out. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on. Maybe it was another suicide, because God Once Loved a Woman also kind of had that suicide feel to it. So I'm not 100% on the details, but I do think that there's some connection, and that connection is the protagonist of this album, who is just like trying new ways to get his kicks.
Yeah. I don't know how it all works together. I feel like I'm too close to this album because before this, that wasn't like, I didn't really pay too much attention to what kind of the words could have meant, I guess.
Right.
It was more just like a wash. But now, I feel like I need to do like some sort of deep dive rabbit hole thing trying to figure this out. Because it's all painting a picture of like, I don't know, man.
It's a lot of specific incidents played back to back, and I feel like that's kind of there's like a through line there. To be clear, I don't dislike this album because of that. I actually think I enjoy this album a lot more than I would have, because there's this kind of weird, dark, edgy kind of story to it that is kind of betrayed by the sound of the album.
Yeah.
Where there's still some darker sounds in the album, but like for the most part, it's very bright sounding, and there's like a kind of shoegazy kind of feel to it. But yeah, I think it's super interesting, and it leads me to like track number 7, Bones, a whole lot.
Fuck yeah, you like Bones?
It's my favorite song on the album.
Hell yeah, I think it's my favorite song as well.
Well, you better know, boy.
Well,
no bones about it.
Then I'll say yes, I guess.
Yeah, I really like the sound of the track. The guitars are really chill again, kind of similar to the laid back structure of like God Once Loved a Woman, but it's a bit more developed, or
Yeah.
a bit more like, I don't know. It's not really upbeat. I don't really know how to describe it, but it sounds better to me. And then the backing synths are there, but they're kind of understated just for like some texture kind of deals. The vocals are a little bit buried under everything else, which I don't think I have a problem with his vocal on this track. I think it works very well. Just the mixing of the song. It's just, I don't know. It feels nice to listen to the song.
Man, like, yeah, so it's got like the finger style kind of guitar. It's not like fast or anything. It's not like he's
Right.
doing like any sort of bluegrass picking type thing, but it's just, I like how he's able to play like the melody and kind of the background at the same time.
Yeah.
That's just something that I generally like in like folk music, in bluegrass music, in indie, like in all types of music. And I like that he does it and uses it to create kind of a bigger sound for a two-man band. But
Like a two-man gentleman band.
God damn it. I knew there was gonna be something, because like as soon as you started saying like he could have been a guy that like raped and murdered women, I was like, when's the two-man gentleman band coming?
No, so that's why I wanted to be clear. Like, I do not make that connection.
Yeah.
The two-man gentleman band rubbed me the wrong way because it seemed like the singer was being very misogynistic
Yeah.
as a person. Whereas with this album, it's more of like telling a story. I don't think the singer or the songwriter himself is the protagonist in the story. I think he's just telling the story of this really fucked up individual that was doing some very fucked up things.
Well,
and maybe it's just easier for me to separate because of that. But yeah, I don't hate this nearly as much as I disliked the Two Men Gentleman Band album lyric.
Well, cool. You know, that's pretty cool.
Speaking of lyrics, though,
yeah,
this is a very like out of place song, I think, in what I've gathered in my through line or whatever. It's very like a nostalgic and wholesome song.
Yeah.
Which is maybe intentional contrast kind of a thing to like, I don't know, make a cool dynamic. I'm not really sure what he's referring to by Bones specifically. The first line he says, "Bones, we watched Bones through the laundromat's fumes in the cold."
It's a TV show.
Well, I know that, but is that what he's singing about?
Yeah, I think he's singing because I think he's talking about watching the TV show Bones on a TV through like steam fumes from out, like
I just felt
outside.
like Bones was a like it meant something. It wasn't just like a TV show. Maybe it is a simple, Occam's razor. But I felt like the song being titled Bones and it being just kind of like a throwaway, like, I don't know. I'm not saying that's not the case. I did consider that in my mind. I'm like, but no, that there's got to be more to it in my mind.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I don't have an answer. I wish I did.
I always took it as like, I don't know. Like this song seems very specific, like in nostalgic.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's very much talking about specifically the times that he had with a person or people and how that is affecting the rest of his life and how those memories have like shaped who he is or how often he thinks about them. And it's just that first little verse where everything is so specific. He's talking about Bones. We watched Bones through the laundromat's fumes in the cold. There's a VA hospital that you and I had walked by on our way to diners and beggars and Popeyes and talk just like, and now did you know that you're the guardian of a part of my life that I had forgotten? Like he's talking specifically about like a specific memory of like them being alone late at night and just like watching a TV show through a laundromat window, walking somewhere to get some food and just talking about like people begging for money on the side of the street or whatever. And it's like, now you are the guardian of that memory, that part of my life.
Yeah, I very much got that same vibe. I felt like Bones had to be something more. Because I feel like saying that you're the guardian of a part of my life is very much like saying that I have a very fond memory tied to you.
Yeah.
And whenever I think of you or see you, that's kind of the grounding that my brain goes back to and kind of makes me feel nostalgic for that kind of thing. So maybe it's still along the same lines and the guy's just feeling nostalgic for when he was younger before all of the weird serial killer rapey vibes crept
Yeah.
into his brain. But this one notably felt different, at least lyrically. But I like it.
Yeah. I know I said I was trying to get away from nostalgia, but I had to do it with this one because that's like the reason like I love this band, and this song specifically I feel like on the album is just like, I don't know, just the end of this song where he's just talking about there's a song that you learned from your mom and you thought if you'd call it out she'd come along.
Yeah.
Did you know that I've thought about you every year in the cold where the train rattles through, and I never told you it's just what I do. Like, just having that moment where you have like a nice little memory of somebody, and then like, I don't know, maybe you meet them in the future and you're just like, I just think about you sometimes and it's nice. Or like, I have these fond memories of us. Like maybe you tell them and it's just like, it's just this nice little thing that you
Yeah.
shared. It's like we had a nice point in our life, and it makes me happy whenever I think about it, and that's just a nice thing.
Yeah. Now my brain's working right now, so I'm workshopping some ideas here now.
Oh shit.
So the train rattles is mentioned here, as well as in God Once Loved a Woman Where the Ground Shaking, where we established that a woman killed herself. So I wonder if maybe he is looking back on that moment as if he has some like super fond memories of this woman that was trying to get away from him, kind of a thing, and he's like filling in gaps in his mind to where he's like, oh, that was a good time. I missed that time. I wish that woman was still alive, kind of a thing. And maybe that's just explaining how he's skewed things. Furthermore, my mind wandered from that to back to God Once Loved a Woman, and I feel like God has to be him in that song because in American he talks about how he's arrogant.
Yeah.
So maybe he's defining himself as God, and he just thinks he's like the best shit, which is why he can get away with doing what he's doing. And it's so easy to him to get away with it, and he can do no wrong. And people don't really know how to take him because he's so great or whatever. But that granted, that's a train of thought that my mind went on while you were describing the nostalgia and looking back. And hopefully it's more innocent than that. But
well, that's like, it can be both. Honest, like however you take it. To your point though, there's a song that you learned from your mom and you thought if you'd call it out she'd come along. Like, it's pretty dark, but I mean, to fit in with your narrative is like, I don't know, who are you going to call for if something extremely terrible is happening? Maybe you're just like calling for your mom, or you're singing something that you like, you hope your mom would recognize and come and save you. Like,
right.
You're
just kind of reverting back to that primal instinct of like calling out for someone who raised you and gave you care, like mom, help, mom, kind of thing, without literally expecting your mom to show up, but in that moment, I like that.
You don't know what else to do, so you're just like doing shit. You have an innate response to this where you're like, somebody come take care of me, please, I need help.
That's super interesting. I think I'm totally sold on my crazy theory now about this album. And I don't want to know if I'm wrong, but to that point, I don't want you to tell me where you're going if you take this in a completely different direction for the last song.
Well, I'll tell you where I am going, and it's to track number 8. Don't tell me where you're going.
This is an interesting song to end the album on, I think. Especially with the start. It starts off with just like a drum machine with some pretty bassy kick, which felt super out of place on this album. And then the guitars and the vocals come in. It kind of gets back to the similar sound of other tracks. I feel like Bones would have been a better final track.
Yeah.
It does have a guitar solo in this one that's kind of like drowned out a bit, which was kind of interesting. And then it has like some piano in it as well. That sounds notably different, but I feel like the album should have ended at Bones, or the song should have been placed somewhere earlier on the album musically.
Yeah, like if we're going by the narrative that has been constructed here, I feel like this song doesn't fit in as well. Or it's like a prequel or something. It's like before, it's talking about like before the dude turned into the fucking Joker or something.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. It seems like I like the sound of this song, but I like it because of the way it makes me feel at the end of the album. But if you're looking for a complete album experience, I guess as a whole, like this song leaves me feeling like empty and wondering like where is everything going, or what what am
I don't want him to tell you where it's going.
Yeah, it's like I crave that feeling of emptiness out of the end of like albums, or I guess more Frog albums specifically, and I feel like they do a pretty good job of that. But if you're looking for like a complete package, it's not going to leave you with that. It's going to leave you being like, okay, like everything just dropped out. There's silence, and now I don't feel okay, type thing.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have a nice bow to tie up the album at the end.
But I like the slow feel of it. Like the guitar solo is kind of just like really reiki and kind of out of tune. Like it's just like ding 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 ding. Like it's almost not a solo. I mean, it is, but it's like it's kind of just somebody like whacking on a little guitar type thing.
Yeah. I almost didn't write guitar solo. I was like, is this actually a guitar solo that I'm hearing right now?
I think it would have to be. I mean, like if you're trying to give it a name, I think it would have to be a guitar solo. But yeah, then there's like the kind of old sounding detuned piano type doodad. But lyrically, like it doesn't kind of fit in with like the story in a progressive sense. I always took it as being like about the band themselves and maybe his experience with like a woman in the past or something. But if we're putting it into the narrative of this psychopathic rapist murderer guy, it could be like a before story. It could be like episodes 1 through 3 where you're watching Darth Vader become the evil guy, I guess, if we're going with Star Wars references.
You were saying we watched Darth Vader become Anakin.
I should have. I totally should have. I know that would have pissed you off.
That's the issue, Joe. You watch all of the movies in reverse order, don't you?
Yep. I mean, I guess everybody kind of did because they started with 4 somehow.
That's not what reverse means, though.
Yeah, but
also, fun fact: 4 wasn't 4 at the time. It was just the only Star Wars movie. It was not intended to be the 4th movie.
Are you telling me George Lucas and all of his great foresight didn't start back in like the late 70s with like, okay, you guys, I'm gonna
write 6 movies
out of order. No, I'm gonna write 9 movies. I'm gonna
He wrote them all.
He did. He actually wrote the sequels, and just like that was his plan to sell it to Disney, and then them produce the sequels.
Yeah,
to piss off his fan base even more.
He knew what a monster Disney would be in the fucking 20s.
Dude, you're.
Anyways,
yeah.
So my interpretation of the song, I grant that this one is pretty different, and it's not as easy to tie into my theory. But I had 2 possible stories here. One of which seems less likely to me, is that the writer has fallen in love with a prostitute. Like he's in a band or whatever, and he's an opening for other bands or whatever. So he's not like super big, but he's big enough to have like, I guess, be on the ticket. But so after that he plays, he mentions a girl that came in late and brought her man. So I'm thinking maybe she's a prostitute and her pimp doesn't approve of what's been going on, maybe because he hasn't been paying off or paying up whatever he's been using her for, and because it kind of implies that he's different and that he doesn't necessarily agree with what's going on or whatever. At least that's the vibe that I got. The second more reasonable theory that I had is that the writer, being a musician in the band, has kind of developed a drug habit. And that's coming from, he says, drop the needle, turn over, repeat, which obviously could just be a vinyl reference. But then he says, sell them on the corner of 14th Street, which is also where I was kind of getting the prostitution or the drugs kind of a deal coming in. But so he has this drug habit. One of his friends is the woman that either sells to him or buys from him. And she brings her boyfriend backstage, her new boyfriend. And the dude's not happy about it because he's some Jesus-loving dude that is just not about her using drugs or whatever. So the dude throws a fit, and now the writer doesn't get high with her anymore. Maybe he thought that they had something special, and they would just get high all the time and have fun and be with each other, and he thought that was kind of romantic or whatever. But now she has her own boyfriend, and the dude's like, nah, this isn't happening anymore. And he's just kind of talking about how that's not the case, and he misses her.
I like where your head's at. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if it's the same protagonist that I've described to be a serial killer rapist throughout the rest of the album, or if it's related in any way.
I feel like this album could go so many ways. Because I feel like there's definitely a tinge of truth to the fucking crazy psychopath narrative. And I feel like this also, like, because I've always just took it as at like a surface level, like, especially with like this song where it's like, maybe this dude's just like a bum musician type of guy trying to make it. And it's like, there's just like a girl that he likes who just came in with her new guy or something. Yeah. Then like maybe they have a history, and Drop the Needle, Turn Over, Repeat. Like, I took it as originally as a vinyl reference, and he's just like selling them on the street, kind of like people would sell like cassette tapes or like CDs or mixtape, whatever. And like people are telling him like, I don't know, this shit is a con, you're a coward, you're a clown, you're never gonna get the fuck out of this town. Is like people being like, your music sucks, fuck you, nobody's gonna ever buy your music, or you're not gonna get signed or whatever.
Yeah.
And just like, I guess the girl got out of it, like out of the town, and he's talking about like, I miss you, but don't tell me where you're going, because I know I'm just going to make a fucking fool of myself if I know and try to go get you, because there's stuff that I want to say to you type thing.
Yeah. I'm having doubts on everything that I said up to this point for this song, anyway, not the rest of the album. But I'm thinking it's more along the lines of what you were saying, with him just trying to make it by selling records. No one has faith that his band's going to go anywhere. And I don't know why I initially had the impression that she brought her boyfriend backstage, because he says played first out of 3 bands, so I was imagining like after he got off the show he was backstage somewhere. But I guess if it was a much smaller venue or something, maybe she just came to see the show and she brought him in and he saw it, and it crushed him, kind of like what you were saying, knowing that she is with another guy. And I think the issue that he's seeing with it, at least from his perspective, obviously he misses her, but he says, I met a boy, he's nice, found his Lord and Savior in Jesus Christ. But then he goes on to say, yes, Lord, don't be afraid. God is with us every day, pumping Alice in Chains in the driveway. So maybe he's just like, maybe he's thinking that like, man, that guy has nothing on me. Yeah, he worships Jesus, whatever. I do that every day with Alice in Chains sitting in the driveway, kind of thing. Just kind of further contrasting him from the man that has taken his girl, kind of a thing, because he's bitter about it and he's trying to make it and nobody believes in him. And now the one face that he was hoping would like bring him joy every time she showed up at his concerts is now kind of a bad omen deal, and he just misses it.
Man, it could be an origin story then.
It could be. Maybe that's what turned him into the weird serial rapist.
Which probably not the best route to take. I mean,
probably not.
You can always just like work harder at your music. Try to find just anybody else. Like they say it a lot. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Just because
I know it's hard. Fish. I don't want to date a fish.
Yeah, but fish taste good. So there's plenty of them in the sea. Just
that's maybe that's what happened. Is he took it too literally? And he's like, man, I like fish. Fish tastes good. Let me just go kill a bunch of people and eat them.
Because they're fish.
Because they're fish. I don't fucking
shit.
Overall, I really like the musical vibe of the album, but the singer's voice gets on my nerves every now and then. And every time I listen to the album again, it just like hits me with that kind of annoying redneck vibe, and I can't get away from it right now. I think it has potential to hit me in the right way at a different point in time, but this week I just wasn't there.
I would, if you're going to revisit, I would, since you don't like the kind of redneck vibe, if you're going to give another album a try, I would go with For Kind of Blah as your next album, if you're so inclined.
Sure.
But
I'm always inclined. I just never actually do it. I mean, just like you not ever listening to Lord's first album.
I'll do it whenever you admit
we want to do
good.
it. Well, that's a long ways off. Not gonna say it's not gonna happen, but it's a long ways off.
On your fucking deathbed, you're gonna be like turn to me with like that movie shit where you're like,
yeah,
there's something I meant to tell you. Yesterday, while I was getting my dialysis treatment, I was listening to Hella, and it was okay.
It clicked. Yeah, it clicked.
That's your dying words.
Yeah, I hope that happens. I feel like that'd be a very weird circumstance where like I'm on my deathbed and you're the one there.
Yeah, I don't
in the room with me. But
the only one too, just like
only one, just me and you, buddy. We're gonna be recording a podcast while I'm on my deathbed.
I wonder how many...
And you'll have it on tape. It's perfect.
Yeah,
you'll have it on record because we'll be recording it on my deathbed, and then the entire podcast of us doing this for 50 years would have come full circle.
I'll give you more than 50 years, maybe 60.
I don't know about that, man.
I think it'll be like 80 something.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it that long, to be honest.
I guess that's true. We're getting up there in the 20s. So.
I'm 2 years off of 30 now, man. So
I'm 3. Boom.
I'm basically an old man at this
super
point.
Young, even.
Next week, though, we're gonna be doing an album that I chose.
Ooh.
That I actually didn't tell you beforehand.
Yeah, you didn't. I don't know what's happening.
I mean, it's on our structure notes, but Metric is the band.
Oh, cool.
The album is Fantasies. They have kind of a synth rock kind of vibe. It's not specifically related to Frog in any way. I just kind of felt like it. It's not too far off from Frog, to be clear, but it's not. I did not choose it because of this Frog album.
Well, cool.
I didn't make any connections there. But yeah, Fantasies by Metric. I really love the album. It recently had its 10th anniversary, I think. It came out in 2009, I want to say. Somewhere around there. But yeah, solid album. Check it out. If you guys liked this Frog album or liked my interpretation of this Frog album, leave us some comments. Send us some messages, some tweets, whatever. If you think I'm completely wrong and insane, that's valid. You're probably more right than I am. But let me know what you think this album's about, because I'm curious, because I went so deep off, or so far off the deep end for this album, trying to squeeze in my serial killer thing. But I think it works. I think it holds up.
Yeah, I mean, it's got plenty of evidence. We might need a detective in here, but
Maybe we need to get, what was his name, Dan? Is Dan the singer-songwriter?
Yeah, Dan Bateman.
Yeah, get Dan Bateman. Hey, look, Dan Bateman, Patrick Bateman. It's there. It's right there asking for it. But yeah, Dan, if you're listening, hi. Tell me that I'm right or wrong about your album, because I'm interested to find out. We really need to reach out to some of these artists at some point to see what they say about the albums and confirm or deny what we've said is fact, because that's what happens on the internet. Is someone's going to hear this and like, man, that album's about blah, 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 and it's really not. But it's whatever you take from it, man.
Yeah, as long as... And you know what? Even if it's not about some crazy psycho murder rapist guy, like at least that gave you some sort of interest into the album that you would not have had before. For sure. And it was fun as hell to talk about and draw all of my weird charts on the wall and pin up with the strings and stuff, making connections that maybe aren't there, and go a little crazy every night. Because who doesn't want to go crazy every now and then, But if you guys want to be crazy, you know what I'm going to say. You've been here. You know what's happening. Stay on our feedback loop. Bye.